Today is the 45th Tawheed Halaqah. The date is the 4th of August 2025. We are on volume 2, chapter 13. Chapter title is Lat, Lithe and Mythology. We are page 428, halfway down, section starting pronunciation and variant readings. Okay, so pronunciation and variant readings. One of the obsessive adherents to the sect of Wahhabism objected to this, attempting to stubbornly argue that the pronunciation with stress on the letter ta was transmitted by Tawatur from the pathway of Luhaybi, from Al-Bizzi, from Ibn Kathir, and a pathway by way of Ruwais from Ya'qub. In response to that, we would say this is not Sahih. The channels are not transmitted by way of Tawatur. Each of them is debatable, with what is established from At-Tabari, Abu Shamah, and Al-Jazari in opposition to it. Notwithstanding this, a narrative channel from Al-Lahabi, from Al-Bizzi, is not of particular firm regard, because Al-Bizzi, may Allah forgive him, was known to disagree with the majority and is on the record as having retracted some of that. Concerning Ya'qub, he is Ya'qub ibn Ishaq ibn Zayd al-Hadrami, died 205 al-Hijri. From the latter followers, junior class of the Atba' al-Tabi'in, unlike his sheikh, the Tabi, Abu Amr ibn al-Ala, died 154 after Hijri, he is known for his adherence to Tawatur. His reading was...
Abu Al-Lāt is known to that, but not Ya'qub al-Hadrami. So we can have some variation in reading on pronunciation because they were taking some liberty in that, but it's not Tawatur.
His reading was only by way of what was proven to him from all. In other words, this is by way of Tawatur or Ijma. With regards to the core aspects of this chapter, the matter of Al-Lat, whether the recitation is stressed or lightened, there are only two readings as mentioned, no others. Number one, it is impossible for them to be it's impossible for both of them to be invalid. In fact, this is contrary to what has been transmitted by Tawatur. The decisive established proof is by way of where he, the exalted expressly states, "Indeed, we have revealed, sent down a dhikr, and we will most surely be its guardian." And that's Quran 59. Indeed, opposing that is regarded as properly being a matter of kufr, disbelief. The one rehearsing it, exiting the fold of Islam altogether, unless the impediments to takfir apply. Number two, likewise, it is impossible to consider the narratives upon light pronunciation as void because it was reported by way of mutawatir. It is the ijma of the 7 reciters, including Ibn Kathir, which is a matter that is well known from him. The exception being the channel by way of Al-Lahabi from Al-Bizzi from Ibn Kathir, which is nothing. It is an odd, anomalous, and invalid reading, as we outlined. More likely, altogether, that he did not take it from Ibn Kathir. Also, it is the ijma of the 10 reciters,
Ibn Kathir is not the famous exegete. Ibn Kathir is the reader of Makkah. So some people may get confused if they hear Ibn Kathir. That's not the exegete of the 7th century. That's one from the early 2nd century. The Ibn Kathir of Makkah, a reader, a Quran reader, not a big narrator of hadith. Maybe have 1 or 2 hadith narrated, but he's a Quran reader, Ibn Kathir al-Makki. Yeah.
Okay.
But carry on.
Also, it is the ijma of the 10 reciters, except for what is narrated by way of runways to Ya'qub, and indeed the ijma of the entirety of the Salaf, bar that of Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, and Abu Salih. Perhaps some of the students of Ibn Abbas or their students followed the minority regarding reading in this regard, as mentioned by At-Tabari earlier. Thus, as confirmed by At-Tabari in his tafsir, the channels regarding the light pronunciation is a matter of authoritative ijma. From among the reciters, be that old or new, At-Tabari does not mince his words. There is a confirmed ijma from the reciters of the garrison cities regarding that. That's Tafsir at-Tabari, volume 11.
Yeah.
The idea of authoritative...
Al-Lat without tashdid. Anyway, it's very difficult to distinguish hearing, because if you read أرأيتم اللات والعزى, the other one with tashdid, أرأيتم اللات والعزى, is difficult to distinguish from sound. And the writing is the same, because the original writing of the Mus'haf is not have, even the ta does not have the two dots, let alone علامات التشديد. There was no diacritic marks anyway. So what the student rely on his sheikh is to listen to him carefully. And it's very difficult to distinguish أرأيتم اللات والعزى, أرأيتم اللات والعزى. The sheikh must stress Al-Lātta. To mean it is original Al-Lātit, which has been done idgham. And especially Abu Amr ibn Ala, who does idgham kabir, where it is not dictated by language, he does idgham kabir in many places. Because usually in the Arabic language you are allowed and encouraged to do idgham if the letter in the first word, the last letter, is the same like the second word, but the first word end with a full stop, with sukun. Then you join the two. Abu Ala take liberty, even if it doesn't end with a sukun, then he still join them together. They call it idgham kabir. That's the specialty of Abu Amr ibn Ala. That Abu Amr ibn Ala read it without tashdid, meaning it's impossible to be originally double T linguistically. He doesn't hear from anybody that it is originally Latit and then it has been compressed together. So all of that mean this is with Al-Lātta. Cannot be really, is a singular reading, maybe a mistake from one of the reader. And it's only the two mentioned there. One from Ibn Kathir, one channel, one sub-channel, and from Yaqub al-Hadrami, one sub-channel. All the rest, and from Mujahid and so on, from Ibn Abbas, these are not a channel of reader, well-established reader. There's not regarded, it's just channels by narration that he was reading like that. That's not regarded as really respectable Quran reading. Respectable Quran reading is just people dedicated to Quran. They all their life read 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. But just a narration style. Ash was reading it as it have been allotted and compressed into Al-Lātta or something. It's just a narration. It's not really a reciter who will all his life teaching children how to recite. Usually a reciter, which regarded as a proper channel, must have been devoted to Quran 10, 15, 20, 60, sometimes 10,000 of times. Some of them sometimes repeat the Quran almost daily or every few days, and all life long. Some of them even repeated it 10,000 times in their life. These are reader, dedicated reader. Just a narration that Abbas used to read like that is just a narration. You cannot really read it as even a Quran reading. Okay, carry on.
The idea of authoritative ijma here is not one of mere opinion or even theory. It is authoritative ijma based upon textual transmission, being among the highest forms of Tawatur. That which is continuously recurrent. Imam at-Tabari was a great studious scholar, a well-renowned polymath, and Mujtahid Mutlaq, scholar of the highest juristic rank, and the leading authority in tafsir and recitation. His opinion carries considerable weight, not being overlooked or disregarded so easily, even when he asserts the view that there is no substantive evidence to support the reading with emphasis in pronunciation. We do not claim it is a matter that is definitive regarding reaching the level of whoever disputed exits the fold of Islam. It is a matter of ijtihad and diligence, yet at-Tabari is such an authority within this realm of knowledge, tafsir recitation, that his opinion must be seriously considered. In fact, he takes precedence over many other later scholars such as Abu Shama al-Jazari and as-Subqi. Recitation of the word with a light pronunciation upon the letter ta is definitely the Quran reading. None would dispute that except a kafir. Without the need for extensive commenting, the matter should be abundantly clear. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar struck the tone of the matter when he commented upon this in Fath al-Bari. He wrote, "The majority settled upon the reading with light emphasis. The emphasis upon the ta is from the reading of Ibn Abbas and a group of those who followed him. It is also narrated from Ibn Kathir, but the well-known reading from him is to lighten the emphasis as per the majority." The comments of Al-Hafiz should be duly noted, especially regarding the majority reading. It would also strengthen our position that the emphasis is attributed to Ibn Kathir is false. Imam Ibn Kathir outlined the following in his acclaimed tafsir. The Almighty says in reproaching the mushrikeen for worshipping al-Asnam, al-Andad, peers, and al-Awthan, making houses, sanctuaries for them, that was similar to the Kaaba, which was built by the Khalil of Ar-Rahman, Ibrahim alayhi salam. He says disbelievers considered Al-Lat and Al-Uzza. Al-Lat was a white stone or rock which was inscribed and contained in a house, sanctuary in At-Taif, that had curtains and servants, custodians. Surrounded with a courtyard which was hallowed by people of At-Taif. They were the tribe of Thaqif and its adherents. They used to take pride in it among the tribes of the Arabs other than the Quraysh. Ibn Jarir at-Tabari said, they derived some words from the names of Allah. They said, Al-Lat is the feminine form of the word Allah. The Almighty is far above what they claim. It was narrated from Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, and Al-Arabi Ibn Anas that they read Al-Lat with the stress upon the letter Ta and interpreted it to mean that it referred to a man who used to prepare sawiq for the devotee pilgrims during the period of Jahiliyyah. When he died, there were gatherings around his grave and they used to worship him. Al-Bukhari said, Muslim, he is the Ibn Ibrahim narrated to us, Abu al-Ashhab narrated to us, Abu al-Jawza narrated to us from Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him. Concerning the verse where he said Al-Lat and Al-Uzza, he said Al-Lat was a man that used to prepare sawiq for the pilgrims. Ibn Jarir at-Tabari said Al-Uzza is derived from Al-Aziz, and she was a tree upon which there was a sanctuary and curtains in the valley of Nakhla. It was between Makkah and Taif. They, Quraysh, used to pay honor and homage to her. Similar to what Abu Sufyan said on the day of Uhud, to us Al-Uzza and for you no Uzza. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, Allah is our helper and you have no help at all. As narrated by Al-Bukhari in the hadith of Al-Zuhri from Humayd ibn Abdurrahman from Abu Hurairah, he said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, whoever amongst you swears in his oath by Al-Lat and Al-Uzza, then he should say, there is no God except Allah. And whoever says to his companion, come, let me gamble with you, then he must give something in charity as expiation. This is referring to those who said it as a slip of the tongue, since they were used to it during the period of Jahiliyyah.
Yeah.
As An-Nasai said in relation to the day and the night, Ahmad ibn Bakr reported to us, whom Abdul Hamid ibn Muhammad narrated to us, they said, Makhlad narrated to us, Yunus narrated to us from his father, Mus'ab ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas narrated to me from his father. He said, I swore by Allah and Al-Uzza, and my companion said to me, what a bad thing you have said. You have made something horrible. So I went to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and told him about that. He said for me to say, there is no God but Allah, alone without partner. He has all dominion, all praise is due to him, and he is able to do all things. Spit to your left 3 times, seek refuge with Allah from shaitan, and do not say that again. Then Al-Imam Ibn Kathir spoke of Al-Uzza and Manat up to where he said, Ibn Ishaq said, Al-Lat was held and venerated by Thaqif at Taif. Its shrine and custodians were Bani Muttalib. I would say during the prophetic mission, the messenger of Allah ﷺ sent Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah.
Is that the statement of Ibn Kathir?
Yeah, Ibn Kathir's statement, yeah.
Is it close? Mention that. And
Okay.
in Ibn Kathir or something, because usually I have a practice and Ibn Kathir. So
okay. Then Al-Imam...
I say that's me talking, yeah.
Yeah. Then Al-Imam Ibn Kathir spoke of, I'm just repeating, so then Al-Imam Ibn Kathir spoke of Al-Uzza and Manat up to where he said, so this is a bit, Imam Kathir. Ibn Ishaq said, Al-Lat was held and venerated by Thaqif at Taif. Its shrine and custodians were Bani Muttalib. I would say during the prophetic mission, the messenger of Allah...
There is also an end quote. There's an end quote also.
Okay. Oh, that's you. Okay.
Yeah, then I say, that's me talking. That's what here, there's an end quote.
Okay, so I'll read to... Okay, I would say...
There should be a parenthesis, but it should be always said intaha or something, or end quote or something, just to make it clear, because we have many quotes there. we're strict in quoting, bringing exactly.
I would say during the prophetic mission, the Messenger of Allah sallam, sent Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah and Abu Sufyan Sakhr ibn Harb to raise it to the ground. In its place, a masjid was built in Taif. Similar to what has been stated above, the following is also recorded in Fath al-Qadir by Imam al-Shawkani with some additional pointers. This is from Imam al-Shawkani. Disbelievers consider Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and the third one, Manat, where Allah may he be glorified, told these stories. He said to the mushrikeen, scolding and rebuking them, have you consider that it is to say about the so-called gods that you worship besides Allah, do they have power that can be described with them? Did they reveal anything to you as Allah revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Or are they merely inanimate objects that make no sense, having no benefit? He mentioned these three asnam, which were well known among the Arabs, given their established great belief in them. Al-Wahidi and others said they derived their names from the names of Allah the Almighty. They said Al-Lāt is derived from Allah, Al-Uzza derived from Al-Aziz. It is the feminine form of Al-Iz, with the meaning of Al-Azizah. Manat was derived from Allah with the meaning of him having ordained something. The majority read Al-Lat with the Lightened. It was said that it is taken from the name of Allah, glory be to him, far above what they
feminine, yeah.
It is said it is Yalit, and the letter Ta is originally in it. It is said it is an additional originating from the word Lawa Yalu to bend. They used to bend their necks while undertaking visitation to do it. That's from Shawkani, I believe, in the reference. Okay. Disagreement exists among the reciters as to whether it stops with the letter Ta or Ha. The majority concurred upon it being with the Ta. With Ta, Al-Farra opted for the Ta even when stopping at it. Following the recitation of the Quran, it is written with the letter Ta. Ibn Abbas, Ibn al-Zubayr, Mujahid, Mansur, Ibn al-Mu'tamir, Abu al-Jawza, Abu Salih, and Humayd all read Al-Lat with the emphasis upon the letter Ta. That reading was also reported by Ibn Kathir. It was said that it was the name of a man who used to prepare sawiq to feed the pilgrims. When he died, they stayed around his grave and began to worship it. It is ism, name, fa'il, relating to his action, originally for this man. Mujahid said, he was a man that stayed on top of a mountain preparing food with fat that fed the pilgrims. It was in the valley of Nakhla. When he died, he was worshipped. Al-Kalbi said he was a man of Thaqif who had goats. It is said he is Amir ibn al-Darb al-Uduwani. This was Sanam of Thaqif, as was said by the poet. Do not support Al-Lat, for Allah will make her perish. How can it support you, that which has no support? He said in Sihah, Al-Lat was the name of a Sanam of Thaqif, and it was located at Taif. Some of the Arabs pronounced it with the letter Ta, others with the letter Ha at the end. Thereafter, Imam al-Shawkani spoke about Al-Uzza and Manat up until where he said, and this is from Shawkani, he, Allah, said, and the third one, and this begins the mention of Manat, describing her as the third one. And the third is nothing but another of the three. Abu Bakr said, the description of Manat with being the other is for confirmation. The description of the third being shaped by the others mentioned, the Arabs describe the second using the word another. Al-Khalil said, he said that in order to arrange the rhyme of the verse by his utilizing the other. Al-Hussein ibn al-Fadl said, it has precedence. The delay and ordering, have you considered Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, the other, and Manat, the third of them? It is said that the use of describing it with the word the other acts as a means of emphasis in the address to the mushrikeen, because they used to glorify them. It is said this is further used as a matter of contempt and dispraise, just like where he said the last of them will say of the first. That is putting them in front of their leaders. Then may he be glorified, repeated the rebuke, reproaching them for what they have said. He says, are you to have the male and he the female? In other words, how do you assign to Allah that which you hate of the females, yet you assign to yourselves the males which you covet? It is said that they said that the angels are the daughters of Allah. It is thus said. What is therefore meant is that how do you, the mushrikeen, make Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, who are feminine, according to your claim, partners with Allah? Yet it is the very feminine nature that you despise if a child is born. A summary of the discussion is cited in Tafsir al-Mawardi. With regard to Al-Lat, Al-A'mash used to place stress upon it, the letter Ta, whereas the other reciters lightened it. So for the lighter pronunciation, there are two statements regarding it. The first of which, it was a sanam located in At-Taif. The claim that its owner, custodian, used to prepare sawiq for his companions, said by a Suddi. Secondly, it was a rock upon which sawiq was prepared, being located between Makkah and At-Taif. It was said by Ikribah. As for those who read it with emphasis, there are two views. The first of which is that it refers to the man who used to knead the sawiq upon a stone. Its consumers would get fat when he died, they gathered upon his grave and worshipped him. Such was said by Ibn Abbas and Mujahid. The second, that he was a man who used to knead the sawiq for the gods, which was based at Taif. As-Suddi said that. Having due regard to the comments made by the exegetes, I may add to this by the following statement. Number one, the statements about Al-Lāt, what she is, where she is, appear at first glance to be varied or even conflicting. In reality, though, they are not. That is because among the ancients, what they call Al-Lāt is one particular aspect related to her worship, or some of the idols that were devoted to her, or some of the idols that were representations or substitutes for her. Hence, it is not surprising that there is a main or central temple dedicated to Al-Lāt in At-Taif, but other locations too that are dedicated to her worship, specifically in Mecca. Without doubt, these temples contain some of the idols, statues, and other supposed sacred objects, such as trees or rocks inside the temple building, or contained within its courtyard sanctuary. It is unlikely that there was no idol devoted or dedicated to Allah contained within the Kaaba at the time, since it housed hundreds of idols. What has been said here about Al-Lāt verbatim would by necessity also apply to that of other idols like Manat, Al-Uzza, Wa'd, Suwa, Yahuth, Ya'uq, Nasr, and other than them among
All
the
of these,
Tawheed. But the main temple is usually located in another place. For example, the main temple dedicated to Manat was probably located in Al-Mushallal.
yeah.
Number two, the problem as it relates to comprehending the wording and ordering as expressed in the verse with the word of al-ukhra, the other, usually assigned to the second, with the goddess Manat being designated the other, third in line of the aforementioned false deities. Attempting to solve the problem by considering the use of commas is not convincing. Say in the precise language the reading is expressing, have you considered Al-Lāt, the first goddess in rank? She is the mother. Al-Uzza, the second in rank, her first daughter, and Manat, the goddess, who is the third in rank, and she is her other daughter, and Allah knows best. Number three.
But in any case, when in any order, for example, Quraysh regarded Uzza as the first and Al-Lāt as second, but everyone regarded Manat as the last one. الأخرى, الأخيرة, the last one, in any order. That's also one interpretation why it's called Manat الثالثة الأخرى. She's the third and the last in any mythology. Quraysh mythology differ from Taif mythology, differ from Khazraj mythology, but all of them agree that Manat is number three. If you speak about the three, she is the last, always. First and second, they may change in position, but the last one is always Manat. Okay, carry on.
So that's the significance of Allah referring to the Ukhra, because just to establish the order.
Yeah, establish the order. And the order in the ayah is the clear order which we use in Taif, which also gives you a hint to search historically what's really the origin of Al-Lāt. So the Taif people are the one who using Al-Lat as the Sahiba, as the consort of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, taking it from the Babylonian, as we will establish soon. In any case, those are all female, have nothing to do with a man who was doing sawiq or anything like that. Because in the case of man, it is an attempt to understand that Lat is coming from Latit, but then was compressed together to Al-Lat. Like Ad, the one who counts Adid, but the Arab do not like that, so they say Ad. فاسأل العادين, ask the one who count. When the Quran says, the angel asks those who are resurrected, how long did you stay on earth? They say, we stayed 1 day or part of a day, but we don't know. فاسأل العادين, ask who are keeping record. Ad. Al-Adin is the plural with double D, shaddah there. It's not Adin, it's Al-Adin, definitely. We'll read it this way, written as one dal, because the origin is adid, from adada, count, the counting. But because it's dal, they're compacted together. And this is the habit of the Arab Muslim. Yeah? The same for many other places, but sometimes without the putting together is the more dominant one. Sometimes they are equally used, like for example, murtad. What's the origin of murtad? Murtadid. But barely anyone say murtadid. It says a murtad was originally murtadid, because the origin is radada. Okay.
Marking the distinction, number 3, marking the distinction between the pronunciation of the word Al-Lāt with the letter Ha as opposed to the Da for Quran reading, emphasizes that it is invalid to read it by stressing the letter Da. Ash-Shawkani attributed to it Al-Qisai from Kufa, At-Tabari attributing it to some of the grammarians of Kufa without specifying them. The following is cited in Taj al-Arus. Al-Qisai stood with the reading, Al-Lat with the letter Ha. Abu Ishaq, this is Qiyas. Abu Ishaq said, this is Qiyas. What is best is to follow the Mus'haf, standing with the reading of the letter Ta.
So essentially, because in the Quran, in some places, shajara, tree, is written in some places with the ta' maftuha, not the ta' marbuta, which is usually written. So some reader, even in shajara with ta' maftuha, when they stop, shajara, they then stop with shajarat, which is a possible reading. And some reader did read that. That's no problem with that. Why it is written with ta' maftuha in the Mus'haf, maybe some kind of a deep sense must be searched for that. Maybe it's a miraculous, related to some miracles of counting of numbers and things like that, which maybe now be answered now by computer science, maybe. But anyway, it is permissible reading-wise, because it's actually ta' of ta'nith, but it can be written marbuta or maftuha. In the Mus'haf,
ta'nith? What's ta'nith?
Ta'nith, feminine, making the feminine.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Feminization is usually sign for feminization is the ta'.
I thought ta' marbuta was the feminization.
Ta' marbuta is the ta' which is written like a ha, but with 2 dots on top of it.
It doesn't have to be feminist. It could be
But it can be many other things. But if in the case of feminine, it's the ta' marbuta or ta' maftuha. Usually it's the ta' marbuta. But in the Quran, it says shajara is written sometimes with ta' maftuha or ta' marbuta. Usually with ta' marbuta, but in some places with ta' maftuha.
That's, is there any significance linguistically in using either of the two? Plural or
significance. Why the Mus'haf uses that in some places, other places, is first of all to show that what is revealed is rasm, is a writing, not pronunciation in the first place. And then secondly, maybe certain count will fit better with the miraculous nature of the Quran. But that has to be researched. Leave that alone now.
I thought in terms of the language itself, if you know, for example, you'll have something which is a plural, which would account for the difference in variation.
No. That's something else. No.
So there's nothing intrinsically changing the definition of the meaning then.
No, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. It's just a writing, orthographic, nothing else.
Okay.
So that's one. So Al-Lāt is written in a Mus'haf with a ta'. As you say, there's no diacritic mark. There's no shaddah there or something like that from the beginning. Even maybe there's not the 2 dots of the ta'. But clear it is a ta'. So the feminine, no doubt about that. When you stop on it, Normally, the readers try to stop as the rasm dictate as much as they can. Al-Lat, أرأيتم اللات. And he stops there, take a breath, then you have to stop. Otherwise, you connect أرأيتم اللاتة أو اللاتة. اللاتة, we debunk that. Is أرأيتم اللاتة والعزى. But if you stop أرأيتم اللات, that's mostly they will stop. But Al-Kizai and others say, because it's feminine, there's no difference in mata stopping. We stop أرأيتم الله. Stop with a ha. Like all other film, like shajara. Okay? So that's what القاموس is تاج العروس بشرح القاموس is discussing that some readers stopped with a ha, which in that case testify that they believe it is one ta, it's not latted. It's impossible to be latted for them. They are absolutely certain it is a one ta, not double ta. It's just pure feminine, and then if you stop, you are at liberty to stop with a ha or with a ta. Yeah, good.
Okay, continuing, number 3. Abu Mansur said the statement of Qisai standing with the reading of it with the letter ha indicates that he considered it to be from Al-Lātta. The mushrikeen who worshipped her rejected the name of Allah, may he be exalted. He is far and above their false statements, their obstinacy and disbelief in his great name. I say, so this is you, I guess. The light reading without emphasis is another statement from Ahlul Ishtiqaq. What's Ahlul Ishtiqaq?
The people of derivation, deriving words or so on.
Which is that Al-Lātu is a verb denoting twisting because they used to go around her. In other words, circumambulate the idol. Our Sheikh says
That's people trying to find the word origin from other words in the language. In reality, it is not. It is a Babylonian word related to something else. That's the reality. But people have the habit to try to give the word a meaning from the language itself, which may be imported from another language.
So it's importing, so it doesn't have a derivation from natively.
It may be derived from that other language or something else, but here in Arabic, it's not derived as a thing from this verb or from that. It's not necessary. The same you find also in the Old Testament, like the name of Musa. They say it means someone who walks or something. It's not. It's an Egyptian name. It's a Coptic, which is the language it's called Coptic even in ancient time. It is essentially meaning the one born from the water. Musa al-Walid al-Mawlud min al-Nahar. Has nothing to do with what the Jews claim it is derived from that, but it's their imagination. They imagine something which is not there.
Our Sheikh said in this regard, Al-Baydawi follows Al-Zamakhshari. Number 4, careful attention must be given to the reported wording of the narrative, striking the absence of any mention of a grave. When discussing those false gods or their idols, temples, custodians, supposed sacred objects, as well as the myths and legends, except where it relates to the story of Al-Lāt and the preparation of the Sawiq.
And even the various idols and houses and curtains, all of that, there's no graves mentioned. Trees, stones, rocks, but no graves. Just keep that in mind. Which means all the theory that he died and buried and his grave turned to something seems to be imaginary, seems to be fabricated. We'll see what the origin of this, where it has come from. The best approximation for the various narration, what does it mean? We'll see the role of Amr ibn Lahi al-Khuzai, what does it mean there? We'll see, inshallah. Approximately, just a good speculation will come.
This is only mentioned in the narrative reported from Mujahid, where he says he was preparing for them Sawiq. When he died, they worshipped him, gathering at his graveyard. This will be expounded upon shortly. Mention of the supposed grave is not found in any other account, nor is there any mention that the sanctuaries of the idols had any graves. Indeed, there were trees, rocks, idols, a carved white rock of Al-Lāt, items upon which sacrifices were made, but no tomb or grave whatsoever.
At all, yeah.
Number 5. Lastly, it is imperative to delineate a decisive ruling concerning the reading of Al-Lāt, with emphasis upon the final da. It is invalid, except if we were to find a pathway from the Arabic language which confirms that it is made feminine. This is because making Al-Lat with emphasis upon the last letter to denote a man preparing Sawiq, as outlined by some of the commentators above, in actuality contradicts the decisive verses of the Quran that are demonstrative of the three false goddesses, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, as being feminine, perceived by the mushrikeen as angelic in origin.
Yeah. Like the ayah says clearly, أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاةَ أَلَكُمُ الذَّكَرُ وَالْأُنثَى. Then he talks about angels after that. So talking about angels who are perceived by mushrikeen as being feminine and being the descendant or having a relation to Allah, some kind of genealogy, some kind of marital relation, but the divine being in some sense or another, and they are feminine. So if it's Allah,
would you say this is the most important statement? Just the fact that it's, the fact that the Quran.
Yeah. So the one who made it mushaddada, Al-Lāt, they usually mean it is coming from Al-Lāt, which is a male, which contradicts the Quran. The Quran talk about females. All of these are females, definitely. There's no male in the surah at all, which can be referred by the ayat after that. لكم الذكر وله الأنثى, etc. Let's talk about the angels and so on. And the other place of Quran confirm that they believe that angels are feminine, etc. So it is definitely so. So if it is Al-Lāt, if it's a ta mushaddada coming from Al-Lāt, double ta, Al-Lāt is male. So that can't be the origin. Maybe something else, but they have to find linguistic construction which bring that. We don't find any linguistic construction. So all of this is clear, show that it's invalid with the tashdeed. It's actually a ta, plain ta, which can be read as a ha. So that's the other one with has been a man who does let knead the dough and make the food and things like that, must be nonsensical. But it has some historic root. What's the historic root or possible root? We'll come to it, inshallah, which exposes where the fallacy came from. Good. We'll come in a section by itself. Carry on.
Extensive research has been undertaken within this subject area, examining the generation narratives and scrutinizing the different forms and pathways for the Arabic language. We didn't find for the word Al-Lāt, that's with the shaddah on the ta, with emphasis upon the letter ta, any meaning or inference apart from this Al-Lāt, or utilizing the language of the people of Najd, Al-Lāttat, a man who prepares the Sawiq. Hence, it is required to make a definitive ruling that the reading of the word with emphasis upon the letter ta is patently false. Narratives accompanying or supporting this would also be rejected as being false. This is what will be considered in detail by the permission of Allah. Concerning
and why we are discussing Al-Lāt so extensive, because this is the only evidence. Muhammad Wahab said, we have an evidence that the mushrikeen were worshipping the grave of a pious man. So this is refuse all these grave worshippers in Najd and declare them to be a kafir. That's his argument. We mentioned his statement. So this is all the argument he has against the so-called grave worshipper. He has nothing else of any relevance. So yeah, I think this is the final strike against the so-called grave worshipper. In reality, he has placed the final strike against his own definition of Tawheed, demolishing it completely. So we expanded that to ad nauseum. So there will be no argument left whatsoever. Carry on.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah, sorry.
Next section.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just carrying on. So narratives accompanying or supporting this would also be rejected as being false. This is what will be considered in detail by the permission of Allah. Concerning the narratives, without a shred of doubt, that which is allegedly being reported from the Imam of the Sea of Knowledge, Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, and from his trustworthy students regarding the interpretation of the Quran, it will be scrutinized in turn. Okay, next section is deciphering the narratives. Regarding the narrative reports that have been recorded, these in turn require some diligent assessment. There seems to be no doubt what has been narrated from the famous interpreter of the Quran, the Imam Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, from the Thiqat, trustworthy narrators from his students. Scrutiny needs to be had upon these reports, the first of which appears in Sahih al-Bukhari. Muslim ibn Ibrahim narrated to us, Abu al-Ashhab narrated to us, Abu al-Jawza narrated to us from Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, concerning the verse where he says, Al-Lat and Al-Uzza, he said, Al-Lat was a man who used to knead or mix the sawiq for the pilgrims. One may see from the wording as it appears in al-Bukhari, it is limited to a man who used to knead or mix the sawiq for the pilgrims. There is no mention whatsoever of his death, a grave, or anything else.
That's concerning the matter. Notice that there's no grave, they worship grave, nothing, just the man who was it. And even this is not true, but we'll go step by step, one by one. We don't leave anything untouched. Okay, carry on.
Contained with a companion of the statements from Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, there is the following. Yahya narrated to us, Abu al-Ashhab narrated to us, Abu al-Jawza narrated to us, mentioning to him the saying from what he said, Abu al-Ashhab did not meet Abu al-Jawza. In Tafsir at-Tabari, the narrative appears as follows. Ahmad ibn Yusuf narrated to me, he said Abu Ubaid narrated to us, he said Abdurrahman narrated to us from Abu al-Ashhab, from Abu al-Jawza, from Ibn Abbas, he was kneading the sawiq for the pilgrims. In Majmu' al-Fatawa, by Ibn Taymiyyah we find, and he said that it is to say, Abdul Hamid in his tafsir, Sulaiman ibn Dawood narrated to us from Abu Ashhab, from Abu Jawza, from Ibn Abbas, he said, Al-Lat was a man kneading sawiq for the pilgrims. Given the above, we would say as follows, Abu Ashhab is Ja'far ibn Hayyan at-Taridi al-Basri, thiqa, trustworthy by ijma'. However, the possibility of him hearing from Abu Jawza is very remote, because Abu Jawza was martyred at the big battle of Jamajim in the year 83 Hijrah. The birth of Abu al-Ashhab could not be before the year 70, as it is set out in the Musnad of Ibn al-Jad. Ahmad ibn Zubayr narrated to us, he said, I heard Yahya ibn Ma'in saying, Abu al-Ashhab was born in the year of al-Khufra. He was contemporaneous to Anas ibn Malik, who lived in Basra for 20 years, and he didn't narrate anything reliable from him, as reported in Tahdhib al-Tahdhib. And Ibn Abi Khudayba said, Musa ibn Ismail narrated to us, he said, Hamad ibn Zayd was saying, Abu al-Ashhab did not hear from Abu al-Jawza. Indeed, Hamad ibn Zayd is one of the established Imams of Basra who adheres to strict principles. It is not conceivable that he is certain of this matter, except that he has learnt it directly from Abu al-Ashhab.
He asked Abu al-Ashhab if you heard from him and so on, yeah.
So one must ask, how can it be that Abu al-Ashhab purportedly has riwayat, narrative channels of reporting from Abu Jawza?
In Bukhari, the wording say, Abu Jawza reported to us, so I heard Abu Jawza. How come that he says something like that in the isnad of Bukhari, okay? Which fooled Bukhari. Bukhari was fooled by that. I think it's connected. Huh? See the point?
It is in fact more likely.
Bukhari insists on connection. Okay, carry on.
Okay. It is in
just to remind everyone listening, this is very important.
Okay, could you recap them? So what do you mean? Just so there's no ambiguity. So how was Imam Bukhari fooled by this?
No. In the Bukhari it says Abu al-Ashhab akhbarana Abu Jawza. How come that Abu al-Ashhab said akhbarana Abu Jawza in that isnad? What has happened there? We'll scrutinize it, we don't leave anything for chance. We scrutinize everything.
Okay. Scorched earth. So one must ask, how can it be that Abu al-Ashhab purportedly has a riwayat, narrative channels of reporting from Abu al-Jawza? It is in fact more likely that Abu al-Ashhab never heard anything from Abu al-Jawza, so the wording of hadathana narrated to us, reported by al-Bukhari, seems to be a matter of wahm, delusion, stemming from Abu al-Ashhab. Or it is from a strange category of tadlis, misrepresentation in reporting, i.e. dropping the narrator or glossing over the narrator.
That's tadlis.
Yeah.
And
Cited
Abu
with
al-Ashhab is known for a strange type of tadlis. He says, أخبرنا أبو الجودة أخبرنا so and so أو غيره or someone else. That's a very strange tadlis.
Is that because of memory or is that because of trying to
We don't know. It's irrelevant. المهم it is tadlis. That's what counts.
Okay.
Memory, and so we're not opening account Yawm al-Qiyamah and punishing people. That's enough to say, stop here, there's some problem. That's what counts for us. Accounting the people live for Yawm al-Qiyamah. Unless it's clear this fabrication and the man is known for it. This one is known to be thicker. But this is the way, that's in many places he narrates this way. I think it's also discussed later. So the moment even if you say حدثنا, it may be when later narrator dropped the أو غيره. Took liberties. Oh, this, he did not notice أو غيره, maybe وغيره. I read it as وغيره. This one I report to us and someone else also. Instead of أو غيره. Just one letter could make the difference. If he has this habit, then you have to raise the red flag. We show the importance of isnad in Islamic tradition. And the fallacy of the West when they say, oh, our criteria and text criteria are superior. No, they are not superior. They are the only way they have to get any good idea or some idea about what has been narrated, if it's authentic or not, because they have no other way to go except this one. Okay, carry on.
Cited within the companion of the statement from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, there is Abdullah said, my father narrated to me from Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi. He said, if we were to stop by Abu al-Ashhab, we would say to him that he said, I heard Al-Hasan. He was saying, I heard Al-Hasan or other than him.
You say that's so it will establish. That's no problem.
Also within the same text, the next statement is of note. Abdullah said, my father narrated to me. He said, Afwan narrated to us. He said, Abu al-Ashhab narrated to us. He said, Khulayd al-Ansari narrated to us. He said, Abu Juzzi said, where did you find Khulayd? He said, I do not know. So it has been narrated by the Imam Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi as it has been presented according to At-Tabari and Abu Dawood at-Tayalisi, as mentioned by Ibn Taymiyyah from Abd ibn Humayd in his tafsir, both of them reporting with from, no doubt, both of which have precedence over Muslim ibn Ibrahim in virtue and status of thiqat, trustworthiness. Especially because Muslim ibn Ibrahim is junior to them in age by around 20 years. The oldest hadith he has heard is singular from Abdullah ibn Awn, who died in 151 after Hijri. So he heard from Abu al-Ashhab after 150 after Hijri. Abu al-Ashhab was a sheikh that was blind, heavily reliant upon memorization, by which time he was over 80 years of age. It is very difficult to ensure that the memory is not failing by that point. Secondly, there is goodness and integrity within the narrator Muslim ibn Ibrahim. However, that isn't to the same level of exactitude as Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, being a disciple of Shu'bah in exercising considerable diligence in checking with the shuyukh, plural sheikh, what they are narrating, whom they specifically heard from. The wording, as it has been attributed to Ibn Abbas and reported by Al-Bukhari, in actuality contradicts the Sahih report stemming from Abu Jawza, as will be discerned shortly. In fact, it would seem highly unlikely that Abu Jawza, who was the diligent, committed companion of Abdullah ibn Abbas for over 10 years, during which time he asked the Sheikh about all verses of the Quran, would come forth with a report that conflicted with his great companion and Sheikh. Given the weight of evidence, we would argue that the hadith from Imam al-Bukhari is munqati, interrupted, falling together from being considered within the ranks of substantive proof. Direct attributable blame shouldn't fall upon al-Bukhari because the narrative reached him in this manner by hearing. The ilal defects that have been outlined herein did not reach him. All praise is due to Allah, who encompasses everything with his knowledge. Even for the sake of argument, if we assume that it is established from Ibn Abbas, it is not possible to note with diligence his alleged wording, all of it being mawquf, not a single letter of it marfu'.
Yeah, it's not from the Messenger of Allah. Where he got it, maybe from Arab statement, because the story is supposed to be hundreds of years in the past. So maybe it's an Arabic narration, maybe some story going around. Could be anything. It's not from Wahi, and not from eyewitness. He was not present at that time. Ibn Abbas, definitely not. Nor his father, nor his great-father, nor great-grandfather, nor great-grandfather. So it's just a history engulfed in obscurity. So just he's reporting what the Arabs are saying, which could be true, could be false, could be nothing, could be just a myth. Nobody knows. It doesn't prove anything. Okay? So that's even if we say that, but it's clearly munqata. It's very clearly munqata.
So, where of being marfu'. Number one,
Yeah.
it doesn't provide any detail or comment upon the nature of the given man, be it good or bad. Number two, there is no mention of the specific stone upon which the sawiq was prepared needed, as per the other narratives. An exposition upon the nature of that stone upon which the wondrous sawiq was prepared, which made people fat from consuming it. If the narrative purportedly from Ibn Abbas is correct, perhaps it is a large engraved rock that was located at Taif in the temple of Al-Lāt. Number three, no mention is made of death or a grave. Number four, there is no exposition regarding what these pilgrims or perhaps the devotees are actually doing within the story. Are they pilgrims?
So Ibn Abdul Wahhab is referring to this hadith most likely because it's authentic in Bukhari, because of his simple-mindedness and ignorance, and embellishing it with some rubbish from other narration, maybe finding in Ibn Taymiyyah references or something like that, and confusing all of it to be from Bukhari. He didn't even go to Bukhari to check. When he claimed that what kills those grave worshippers is the story of a pious man who was doing sawiq and so on, and when he died, they did ukuf, they devoted themselves to his grave until they worship the grave. So that's all from his imagination. It comes in other forms, so bits and pieces, and he put them together according to his desire. It's not in the narration of the Bukhari anyway. That's the way he presented it.
Do you present?
Patch it from here and there and there.
And he's made it something Kathir out of that, yeah? Ridiculous.
Even worse, an addition, which shows his absolute complete ignorance and complete.
Later on, do you present his
arrangement?
Later on, do you present his entire premise?
Just continue. So we're not finished even the Lat yet. We are midway, maybe.
Okay. Now, one second. Do you present Abdul Wahhab's point of view in full afterwards? Do you reference it directly later?
That's all what he said. We mentioned earlier. It's only half a paragraph. That's it.
Okay, so it's constructed something so fundamental.
Yeah, that's it. That's all what the people have. That's all what they have.
Building an entire premise from a crisp packet.
That's all they have.
Number four, there is no exposition regarding what these pilgrims or perhaps devotees are actually doing within this story. Are they pilgrims visiting the house of Allah at the Haram, or are they pilgrims to the temple of Al-Lāt or even other Tawatur?
What is going on? Yeah.
So basically, you would need to lend credence to your argument if it has something supporting it in these four.
The story needs to be verified more probably than that. It's completely nothing. It's bringing absolutely nothing.
It's pulled on Imran Hussein.
And based on that, he built the whole grave worship on that.
It's pulled like a milladun qarah.
Yeah. Carry on.
Next section, the second narrative. The second narrative report is cited in the Majmu' al-Fatawa of Ibn Taymiyyah. And this is from the Majmu' al-Fatawa. And Sulaiman ibn Harb said, Hammad ibn Zayd narrated to us from Amr ibn Malik from Abdul Jawza. He said, Al-Lāt was the stone upon which the sawiq was prepared, needed, so it was called Al-Lāt. The report is mawquf upon Abu Jawza. As for Sulaiman ibn Harb and Hammad ibn Zayd, they are from among the astute established scholars.
So it seems to be this statement is actually a statement of Ibn al-Jawza, which doesn't mention where he got it, most like an Arab myth or something. He summarized them in a concise way. So Abu Ashhab made the mistake that taken from intermediary who took it from Abu Jawza and added Ibn Abbas from his imagination. Ibn Abbas is not featured in this narration, certainly. So this clarifies it is Abu Jawza is the one who's saying that, not attributing to Ibn Abbas, but taking it maybe from the Arab and things like that. So what is Abu Jawza saying? Read it again.
The report of is mawquf upon Abu Jawza. As for Sulaiman ibn Harb.
What did he say? What is the wording? Read the wording again.
Okay.
Sulaiman ibn Harb from,
They are among the Amr ibn Malik al-Naqri is among the established narrators of Abu Jawza, being thiqa. Here the isnad is sahih, upon which further proofs can be established without doubt. This is the wording as reported from Abu Jawza, and he had been in attendance with Ibn Abbas as well as Aisha radiallahu anha in Medina for 12 years, during which time he asked them about each and every verse as it appears in the Quran. Broadly, this is close to what has been reported in Al-Muhtasib fi Tabayyin an Ujuhu Shawaz Qira'at wal-Iyadah and Abu al-Fath said, it was narrated from Qatrab that there was a man who used to prepare the sawiq and fat, and it says ghee, in the market of Akaz near a rock when he sold them.
But what was the wording which Abu Jawza said? Just read us the wording.
Is this the one before that? Okay, so this is okay. Okay. Then Abu Sulaiman ibn Harb said Hamad ibn Zayd narrated to us from Amr ibn Malik from Abu Jawza. He said Al-Lat was the stone upon which the sawiq was prepared, so it was called.
So it's a stone, not a man. Al-Lat was a stone upon which the sawiq was prepared. It's not even a man. It's a stone upon which the sawiq was prepared. Yeah, and that's all.
That's all. That's the report is mawquf upon Abu Jawza.
No. That's the wording of Abu Jawza.
Okay.
And that was a stone, not a man. It was a stone upon which the sawiq was prepared. Yeah? Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Confirm, say confirmed. Yeah, that's it.
Confirmed.
That's all. Nothing more. And then I comment, this is mawquf, etc., etc. Yeah. Okay. So it's not even a man, it's a stone.
Okay. So there's conflicting narratives.
Yeah. No. It's clarify how the hadith in Bukhari, Abu al-Ashhab, make it a man, making sawiq and things like that. So if anything is coming from Abu Jawza, it's not from Ibn Abbas first. And then what the wording of Abu Jawza is different than the one attributed through him to Ibn Abbas. So there's a confusion. And most likely Abu al-Ashhab took it from an intermediary who either Abu al-Ashhab did not memorize properly or the intermediary did not memorize properly and added Ibn Abbas from his imagination. So it is a stone, not a man. And the stone could be in Arabic Sahra, could be feminine. That may be tolerable still. Okay, carry on. Continue. Where you stopped earlier, yeah.
So this was from that long name book. Abu al-Fath.
The long name is one of the books of reading and so on. Yeah.
Abu al-Fath said it was narrated from Qatrab that there was a man who used to prepare the sawiq and fat ghee in the market of Akaz near a rock when he sold them. He would prepare the sawiq upon the rock, then knead it. When the man died, the tribe of Thaqif worshipped the rock in honoration of that man who prepared the sawiq.
Okay, what's the isnad of that? Which reference he's giving there?
This is from the long name book. This is from...
but did he give an isnad? The long name book can be 100 miles long. It doesn't matter. Is that clearly from the name of the book? It is someone later in Islamic history. So he was not.
The report is okay. So this is, you have to wait with me for a second. This is the report. Wording is reported from Abu Jawza, and he had been in attendance with Ibn Abbas as well as Aisha.
The writer of the long named book claim Abu Jawza is reporting that.
Is that what you're telling me? Sorry.
No. Confirm or deny. What is this long named book saying? That the one saying the book claim Abu Jawza says that and that, or does he give an isnad of a hadith?
The word I'm going to read this exactly as stated, so I can't say more than I don't know. I've not read this before, so this is the wording is reported from Abu Jawza, and he had been in attendance with Ibn Abbas as well as Aisha.
No, before that, did he say I found in a book so and so on with this isnad?
As for Sulaiman ibn Harb and Hamad ibn Zayd, they are from among astute established scholars.
That's my statement. Now we'll go to the long named book. Finish with that. We're done with that.
Can I say something? I'm going through, this is the book, and then I'm going to the paragraph above it. I can't decipher things simultaneously. I can only read what's there.
Yeah, I understand. We
Yeah.
finished with
And it's-
Sulaiman bin Harb and Abu Jawza. We found that if anything valid from Abu Jawza said it is the rock upon which Suwiq was made. That's all what Abu Jawza said. Now you mentioned after that, next paragraph or something, a long named book, the book writer, open parenthesis, saying something. What does he say? This long book writer.
Yes, sir. That's the one that I read out earlier. The Abu Fatah said it was narrated
Yeah.
from Qatrab. There was a man who used to prepare the Suwiq. Now, I think they haven't put a full chain of narrations in there. Maybe that's what
So
you...
that's my point. From Qatrab. Who is Qatrab? Allah knows best. We don't know it's Qatrab, but definitely Qatrab is not a famous hadith collector or a famous book.
Okay, in the
First time we hear the name.
in the appendix, they've got Abu Fatah Uthman ibn Janni al-Mawali died 392 after Hijri al-Muhtas, and then
392, so 400. So 400 years after, 300 years after the time of Abu Jawza. So not giving his isnad to these generation. So it's just hanging in the thin air. What does Qatrab says? Continue reading.
Okay.
Qatrab from Qatrab.
So I've already read this before, so I'll read it again, yeah?
No, yeah, read it. We'll continue step by step. We have very crucial to go step by step. That's just relax. We go line by line, word by word.
Okay. Abu
Just put your finger where you are there reading and then go back to it. So Qatrab, what Qatrab said?
It was narrated from Qatrab that there was a man who used to prepare the sawiq and fat ghee in the market of Akaz near a rock when he sold them. He would prepare the sawiq upon the rock, then knead it. When the man died, the tribe of Thaqif worshipped that rock in honoration of that man who prepared the sawiq.
Okay, so finish the statement of the long name of the book.
Yes, that's so there's an additional discussion below that.
So all these long statements is from Qatrab. Not the writer of the long named book does not mention where Qatrab got that. Is getting from some hadith book, because Qatrab is definitely was not in that time. He was not present at this event, not even present at the time of Abu Jawza or the time of Ibn Abbas. He died around 400 Hijri. So all his knowledge is coming from the essentially the 3rd century or the 4th century of Islam. So he's reporting something maybe from his imagination or combining narration he received from there and putting it in a story which appears to in his mind consistent. That's all. Which may be just a myth, collecting myth and organizing them nicely. That's all what's there. Okay. That's it. No evidence of anything. Next. Continue. That's what I mean. We read slowly to see how these myths have been fixed together a long time. Nothing going to any narration or any relevance. Starting even with Hadith Abu al-Ashhab going allegedly to Ibn Abbas, even if Ibn Abbas is reporting Arab myths. But we know it's not from Ibn Abbas. We know now it's from Abu Jawza, but Abu Jawza himself did not mention even a man. It is a rock in which upon which Suwiq was made. Who is making the Suwiq? The devil, maybe a man, maybe a jinni, maybe a demon. We don't know. Okay, carry on. That's a way to read things like that, crucial, because Al-Wahhabi Ibn Abdul Wahhab made that absolutely crucial matter of Iman and Kufr. So we have to go dig deep. We did not need that if it was just a secondary point, but for him it's a fundamental point. Carry on. Yeah.
Notably, the wording as outlined by Abu Jawza, all of which are mawquf upon him, none of this is attributed to Ibn Abbas, Aisha, or anyone else, particularly those who had lived during the age of pre-Islamic ignorance, al-Jahiliyyah. Number one, within this narrative, there is no mention of a man called Al-Lat, neither whether he is a righteous or wicked. Rather, he or she is referred to as being either a rock or a stone. Number two, by greater reasoning, there is also no mention whatsoever of death, let alone a grave. It would seem that Mujahid is the only one who actually mentioned this. Even then, he does not specifically attribute it to Ibn Abbas, as will be outlined shortly. Number three, in this round, it doesn't sit in conformity to the wording as per either Mujahid or Abu Salih. So it must be from other than them and not their elders. Moreover, it does not sit in conformity with the statement alleged to be reported from Ibn Abbas from al-Bukhari, which provides additional verification that the narrative he cites is invalid. The channel of reporting is broken. Hence, it would seem from Abu Jawza that Al-Lat is either a stone or a rock, that the people in their antiquity used to consume the sawiq from. If the story has a factual historical basis, it would bear that this sawiq would have been some form of offering to those that were visiting the goddess Al-Lat. Alternatively, it may have been an offspring that was purchased and presented before Al-Rabah, the goddess, as the people of Taif used to call it. With the passage of time, the temple of the goddess of Al-Lat expanded, with the stone being included within the sanctuary of the temple, the sawiq perhaps no longer prepared upon it. Thus, the stone became the idol of Al-Lat, thus being named after it. Again, with the passage of time, later generations, or some of them, may have thought that the naming of that was derived from the word related to kneading or preparing the sawiq. With this, the reading of Al-Lātta is pronounced with emphasis and ijtihad by those who came before with this story, and in principle, it wouldn't necessarily contradict the text of the Quran. The third narrative, cited in the tafsir of Imam al-Tabari with an isnad that is strikingly authentic from Mujahid. Ibn Bashir narrated to us, he said Abdurrahman narrated to us, he said Sufyan narrated to us from Mansur, from Mujahid, concerning the verse, disbelievers consider Al-Lat and Al-Uzza. He said he was preparing a sawiq for pilgrims, and people stayed at his graveyard. Also cited in the tafsir, there is another narrative with a sahih isnad. Mu'amil narrated to us, he said Sufyan narrated to us, Mansur from Mujahid, concerning the verse, disbelievers consider Al-Lat and Al-Uzza. He said Al-Lat prepared the sawiq for the pilgrims. In the Majmu' of Al-Fatawa of Ibn Taymiyyah, there is the following again with a sahih isnad. And Abu Abd ibn Humayd said in his tafsir, Qabisa narrated to us from Sufyan, from Mansur, from Mujahid, concerning the verse, disbelievers consider Al-Lat and Al-Uzza. He said he was a man needing the sawiq. When he died, his grave was taken as a place of prayer. The next two narrations appear in the tafsir of Imam al-Tabari. Ibn Humayd narrated to us, he said Mihran narrated to us from Sufyan, from Mansur, from Mujahid, regarding Al-Lat. He said he was preparing the sawiq for pilgrims. When he died, they devoted themselves to his graveyard. Although Ibn Humayd's wording is well known, Ibn Humayd narrated to us, he said Jarir narrated to us from Mansur, from Mujahid, regarding where he says Al-Lat, he said he was a man of the mushrikeen who prepared the sawiq. When he died, they devoted themselves to his graveyard.
So notice he said from the mushrikeen, so he's a mushrik. Not a good pious or good man, whatever it is, yeah. Okay. So this is Mujahid, where there's a grave mentioned, only Mujahid. All others do not mention a grave, essentially. Except in the composed story of Qira'at, which came without any isnad. So it's almost like a composed story made by Qira'at, putting things together in a way we thought consistent. Okay. Carry on.
Once again, from Majmu' al-Fatawa of Ibn Taymiyyah, it was narrated from Al-Amash that he said Mujahid used to read Al-Lātta with that additional emphasis, and he was saying Al-Lat was a man that used to prepare the sawiq upon a stone in the region of Taif, and he would feed the people. Thus, when he died and was buried, they devoted themselves to his graveside. Looking at the narratives as a whole, one must accurately read the words that have been reported from Mujahid. All of them are mawquf to him, with not a single letter being marfu'. Moreover, there is no mention here of attribution to Ibn Abbas, nor from where he obtained this version of events, from the people who actually lived during the era of Jahiliyyah. Once again, no determination is given regarding this man as to whether he was righteous or a wicked satanic individual. Number one, that's number one. Number two, there is no clear mention of what the bystanders to this are doing within the story, whether they are pilgrims to the house of Allah at the Haram, or pilgrims and devotees to the worship of Allah, or even other Tawaghid. Nor is it clear, if we follow the trajectory of the narration of Ibn Humayd, which is supported by others in this regard, to be mentioned shortly, whether all bystanders or passers-by, regardless of their ultimate direction, were from mushrikeen. The addition that has been made, he is Al-Lat, has given rise to confusion. as the phrasing is not decisive in meaning. A. It is possible that a devotee intended to create a new god with the title of Al-Lāt. B. Or even that Al-Lāt already existed as being construed as a divine being, either manifesting or incarnating in the said individual in question to the extent that it was deemed appropriate to refer to him as being Al-Lāt. Following narratives to the report of Mujahid. Additional wording has been reported by way of Sa'id ibn Mansur, which is he used to knead the sawiq for them, feeding the passers-by. When he died, he was worshipped. They said, he is Al-Lāt. This is also mawquf upon Mujahid, within which it is mentioned to feed the passers-by. No differentiation is given between pilgrims or devotees or the ordinary passer-by. Also cited from Mujahid, Al-Lāt was a man during the era of Jahiliyyah. He had sheep, he would graze them and take from the raisins of at-taif and cheese. From that he made hayis, feeding whoever passed by. When he died, he was worshipped. They said he is Al-Lāt. He used to place emphasis upon the reading of Al-Lāt, of the reading of Al-Lāt as it is narrated by Sa'id ibn Mansur and Al-Faqihi. The following is mentioned in Akhbar Makkah by Al-Faqihi without an isnad. From Mujahid, he said Al-Lāt was a man during the era of Jahiliyyah upon a rock in At-Taif. He had sheep that would graze. He prepared a dish from raisins and curd from At-Taif, from which he made hayis to feed those who passed by. When he died, he was worshipped. Within tafsir of Al-Alusi, there is, reported by Al-Faqihi, was that when he died, Amr ibn Luhay said he didn't die, but instead he entered the rock. So they worshipped it, and upon it built a house, shrine.
That's interesting. So have Amr ibn Luhay appearing now. Hold to that. Keep that in your mind. Yeah, carry on.
Ibn al-Mundhir reports from Ibn Jurayj that he said he was a man of Thaqif, kneading the Thaqif with oil. Upon his death, they made a grave, a wathan, idol. The people claimed that he was Amr ibn al-Tharib, one of the enemies. Given this, I would say there is nothing essentially new that these narratives provide. Rather, it can be seen as confirmation of what has already been established by way of the Sahih Isnads, reinforcing that which was mentioned by At-Tabari in relation to what is reported from Ibn Humayd, namely that food was being provided to the general public among the mushrikeen. Here, then, it would seem there is attestation to the truth that Ibn Humayd was mentioning. The fourth narrative, cited in the tafsir by At-Tabari, there is manifestly the Sahih report to Abu Salih. Ahmad ibn Hisham narrated to us, he said Abu Ubaidullah ibn Musa narrated to us from Israel, from Abu Salih, concerning where he said, Al-Lat, he said, Al-Lat was the one who used to service their idols, their gods, preparing the sawiq, and was located in At-Taif. It is also in the Majmu' al-Fatawa of Ibn Taymiyyah. And he said, namely, Abd ibn Humayd in his tafsir, or Sulaiman ibn Harb, Ubaidullah ibn Musa narrated to us from Israel, from As-Suddi, from Abu Salih. He said, Al-Lat was the one who used to service their gods, and he was preparing the sawiq for them. I would submit Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hisham ibn Bahrab al-Bada'ili is thiqa, trustworthy. But that which is from Imam Abu Abd ibn Humayd or Imam Sulaiman ibn Harb is more reliable and firmly established. The Ziyadat al-Thiqa, addition made by trustworthy narrator, is deemed maqbool, acceptable. It is necessary to give preference to As-Suddi in the Isnad. Overall, the Isnad is Hasan li dhatihi, graded good by itself, a Hasan narrative that is close to being from among that which is considered Sahih to Abu Salih. Concerning Abu Salih Badham, Mawla of Hani, by himself, he was not left or had accusations leveled against him. Rather, he was blamed for more obscene tadlis, misrepresentation reported from Ibn Abbas. He definitely took from his Mawla, Hani bint Abu Talib, and Ibn Abbas, as well as other Sahaba and Kibar at-Tabi'in, senior figures, as of the successors of the companions, the Prophet's companions. This is important because he has knowledge of the akhbar, plural of khabar, report related to Jahiliyyah of the types known by the likes of Mujahid and Abu al-Jawza. Hence it is right to give due consideration to his narratives, just as it is to that of Mujahid and Abu Jawza. One must have due regard with diligence to the wording that has been reported from Abu Salih, all of which are mawquf upon him, with not even a letter being marfu'. And there is no mention of Ibn Abbas, or for that matter, who specifically it has been obtained from, since it relates to the era of Jahiliyyah. Additionally, the following points arise. Number one, clarification is provided that this man is not sahih, righteous, but rather he is wicked, a servant of false gods, and mushrik kafir. Number two, it is conformity with the reported narrative of Mujahid, but at first glance it appears to contradict that which has been reported by Abu Jawza. Number three, and crucially, there is no mention therein of a death or a grave. It seems as though Mujahid was the only narrator to mention this, the grave in particular, and even then it wasn't attributed to Ibn Abbas. In the round, this is the best of what has been reported. There is, through another channel of narration, purportedly from Ibn Abbas, which contains unacceptable additions, and there shouldn't be any doubts raised in its refutation. The fifth narrative, cited in Fath al-Bari by Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar, this is from the book, and Ibn Abi Hatim reports from the channel of Amr bin Malik from Abu Jawza from Ibn Abbas, and the wording of its addition is, he was preparing a sawiq upon a stone, none would consume it, except that they would become fat, so they worshipped him. It is cited in Dhur al-Mandhur. Ibn Abi Hatim and Ibn Murdawayh report from Ibn Abbas. He said, Al-Lat was preparing the sawiq upon a rock, none would consume it, except that they would become fat, so they worshipped it. Also appearing in Tafsir of Al-Alusi, Ibn Abi Hatim and Ibn Mardawi report from Ibn Abbas. He said that he was preparing the sawiq, and the wording of its addition is, he was preparing the sawiq upon a stone, none would consume it except that they would become fat, so they worshipped him. This is also cited in Al-Muhtasab fi Tabayyin. Abu Hatim said he was preparing the sawiq for them. If any consumed it, they would become fat. Consequently, they worshipped that man.
Carry on.
Abu Hatim is mentioned, rather it is Ibn Abi Hatim. However, I would argue that it has not been possible to determine its roots from Ibn Abi Hatim. All those who came after Al-Hafiz seem to attribute it to Fatih al-Bari. On occasion, it is mentioned as attributed to Ibn Mardawih, but without citation of the isnad. The reprehensible nature of the matan, reported text, does not need further substantive dalil to warrant its rejection. What kind of sawiq is this, that the pilgrim consumes and becomes fat after a few mouthfuls or after a few days? Is there anything so utterly ridiculous than that? As for the isnad between the Imam Abdurrahman ibn Abi Hatim and Amr ibn Malik al-Nakhla, there is at least two missing narrators by necessity. I shall speculate here. At least one of those narrators is either da'if, weak, with many errors, mixing the East with the West, or even worse, an outright liar who will receive from Allah what he deserves. Other narratives have included all manner of additions, sometimes mixed with other stories, although their veracity is not established. Okay, so this ends the 5 narratives on this subject.
Carry on to the section.
Because we need to kind of, because there's quite a lot more to go. Just as we will be here for
only the final conclusion. What could have been historically the case with Amr ibn Lahay and this guy? I think we can conclude that because it's connected in our mind at the moment.
Okay, well, we might need to postpone because this is a lot of text. There's a lot. As it goes into evidence from archaeological historical record. Okay, anyways, we'll carry on. Attempts at deciphering the myths.
Yeah.
Hence, this has arisen with the present inquiry. There is also a relevant section upon which this appears in the seminal work of Jawad Ali, entitled Al-Mufassil fi Tariq al-Arab Qabla al-Islam, when he said, when we take into account the opinion of Ibn al-Qalbi, that Amr ibn Luhay said to the people, "Behold, your Lord has entered this stone," or that man who was by the rock did not die, he entered it, or that the spirit of a dead person settled in it. Indeed, we need to look at this opinion with something of seriousness. It does not exclude that this opinion refers to what is called fetishism, which is the worship of stones in the terminology of religious scholars. They mean by it the worship of spirits that the worshippers believe to be in those stones, especially strange stones that have not been shaped by human hands. But the worship is based on their shape and creation in nature, and it is one of the superstitious forms of worship in relation to worshipping as-sawar, images, at-tamathil, statues, and asnam, idols. Hence, we would
That's
argue.
Jawad Ali is just importing the ideas of the Western, so-called Western scholarship. He doesn't know what he's saying, honestly. But anyway, carry on. Yeah. Mhm.
Hence, we would argue Amr ibn Luhay ibn Qam'ah ibn Khidif is the one who has probably invented the story of the man entering into a rock, after which he was lost without trace, with his body and loss of the body, with death and the loss of the body. Perhaps he explained the matter by saying that this Rabbah, goddess Al-Lat, chose him for her service and worship, settling in him or uniting with him. That would perhaps explain how he became Al-Lat. Conversely, he could have tried to explain it away by arguing that he was but a mere manifestation of Al-Lāt, being a low earth evil deity who resides with humans above earth but disguised in the form of a man, returning perhaps to an underworld thereafter. In any event, neither of these explanations is far from the worship of the idol. Myths, symbols, superstition, and indeed legends seem to underpin what is regarded for this cultic type of worship. One should not cast the aspersion to say that the Arab descendants of Ismail were not at this particular level of philosophical thinking related to merging, incarnating in other cultic ideas. In fact, we say that did they invent it in the first place? According to them, such ideas were imported, then adapted, simplified, and applied to the specific local environment, which isn't dissimilar to how Amr ibn Luhay al-Khuzai imported al-Islam as mentioned earlier. Especially since the tribe of Taif was considered from ancient times a city of wisdom with a degree of civilization and progress. Some of people, such as Al-Harith ibn Qalada, traveled to study medicine, philosophy, and the reports from the kings of the Persians, Rome, and elsewhere. According to this channel of narration, Al-Lāt is a custodian of the sanctuary dedicated to the false gods, a mushrik kafir. The existence of the man in question, whose name and acclaim among people are spread widely, cannot be ruled out entirely. That is, if there is a trace of historical veracity to the tale. He could be Amr ibn Darab, the famous aggressor, or as some of the Riwayat al-Akhbariyah indicate. Amr ibn Luhay feared competition from him, so he disposed of him in a deceitful way, then invented the deception of what his demise was for the people. If this is true, it has nothing to do with the subject of making graves into mosques, of what the deviant sect of Wahhabism call grave worship. The critical point is that this only was given credence because they believed Allah was a divine being. Perhaps this is the most reasonable and rationally consistent analysis for the myths
See, the
surrounding this
point here is
historical
that
episode.
this was maybe a leadership of in the worship of the Lat, maybe making Sawiq, and because he's rich, Amr ibn al-Dharib al-Adwani was very rich, and so the tribe of Adwan also was later almost decimated in fights. And Amr ibn al-Hayy feared competition, so he made a plot, got rid of the man, killed him somewhere, disposed of his body, and then told the people, your leader has been swallowed by the Lat, and he entered the rock. He's now in the rock. Khalas, that's it. He has been co-opted or adopted by the Lat. And the Lat is the presentation of the goddess Al-Lat, which is imported from Babylon, or something like that, which will fit the character of Amr ibn Luhay. He was to be the absolute leader and undisputed single dictator of Arabia at the time, which he achieved also in his lifetime. Until he died, obviously, and then Qusay, the grandfather of Prophet ﷺ, who was married to the daughter of Amr ibn Luhay, took over the leadership of Mecca and expelled Khuza'ah. Okay, so that's a very reasonable way. So the story that he entered the rock and so on is the invention of Amr ibn Luhay, who got rid of him by some kind of a trick or mischief. That's a very reasonable explanation for if this man ever existed, and was doing sawiq there on that rock in the vicinity of the temple of Al-Lat in Taif. So that's what I intended to get there. So this is the best possible explanation for this appeals. And then he presented, your Lord, your leader was so close to the goddess swallowed him. He's inside, khalas. You just go direct your devotion to this representation of the goddess herself. Or he was during his life just an incarnation or becoming flesh of the goddess. Now the goddess took him away. It's very easy to sell such nonsense to primitive pagans, as Paul or others were able to sell the story that Isa is an incarnation of the divine being or the Son, which is some kind of a heavenly divine okram or divine entity, something like that. That sells well in pagan societies. So that's most likely the origin. So we are not having a pious man. We have a satanic man who is attending to idols, and there's no grave. He is entered in the rock, and it's only Mujahid who constructed the grave in his imagination from the various stories. He could not put the stories together. And that seemed to be the best way to put the story together. We can stop here if you want, and then continue.
There is a section that goes on to say about... I'll make what I'll do is that we can do a recap, and then it talks about Wahhabism.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then, Shadh. Okay, so we're stopping.
Note the line and so on, because you don't. We didn't stop at the head of section.
Yeah, I've marked it on the paper. I've got a bookmark. Okay. So that means page 453.
That makes sense.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the stream now. So next week we will continue volume 2, chapter 13, page 453. And
this shows that when Ibn Abdul Wahab said this show that the Arabs were believed in the grave of a pious man and they worshipped that grave. Because he must have taken that not only from Hadith of Bukhari, from Ibn Taymiyyah. He's an avid reader of Ibn Taymiyyah, and Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned many of these other narrations as we listed them. So he put them together. He fabricated it. His statements fabricated. What Ibn Taymiyyah listed does not. Unless Ibn Taymiyyah made the same conclusion and he took it, then it's just complete blindness of the mind. I don't think Ibn Taymiyyah made such a statement. That's the evidence that the Arabs have worshipped the grave of a pious man. I don't think Ibn Taymiyyah is so dumb to come to that conclusion. It's Ibn Abdul Wahab who was either up to extreme dumb stupidity or straight away fabricating the so-called this statement, because in the Bukhari nothing of that is there, no grave and so on. And Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned various narrations as we listed them there. So where he got his statement, which he mentioned at the beginning, justifying why we are getting the Al-Lat story in all details.
He doesn't reference anything. He just makes a conclusion in his own works, does he? Yes, he doesn't put any references.
And what he says that the worship of grave in our time say, but the mushrikeen, but the Muslims do not believe in the graves and so on. They don't believe divinity. Say, you don't need a belief, because the mushrikeen of Arabs, they did not believe, but they worship the grave of a pious man who died, believing he's a pious man. That's what his name essentially. And still the Prophet declared takfir on them and fought them and killed them. That's what he said. Go back to the beginning of this chapter or whatever it is about that. And that's the reason we gave all this effort to show this is utterly unacceptable in every respect. The way he expressed it is completely catastrophic. Say the Radd al-Qati', the definite answer to them. Go back and read the introduction. This is the only answer he has to the mushrikeen of his time. He claimed to be mushrikeen, abad al-qubur. The man is mentally deranged, or a straightforward liar, fabricator, or both.